This is a continuation of yesterday's lesson. It's still 11.4, multiplying integers, and I should have put example 1, like multiplying with two numbers for yesterday, so if you want to add that into your notes, you can. So we're going to start with example 2 today, which is multiplying with three numbers, because yesterday you just multiplied with two. So if you're still writing this down, pause your video real quick. And so here is our first example. If I give you something like negative 10 times negative 6 times 1, you have to multiply all three numbers together. Now remember, you don't need multiplication signs to indicate multiplication. In this particular example, I just have my numbers are with parentheses around them. So this is still the same thing as negative 10 times negative 6 times 1, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to keep it written the first way, and I just suggest you go from left to right. You can multiply in any order you want, but I think it's less confusing if you start here and you work your way to the right. So I'm just going to do negative 10 times negative 6 first. Remember, if the signs are the same when you're multiplying, you end up with a positive answer. So this would be a positive 60 just from that, and then you would multiply times 1 at the end. Of course, 60 times 1 is itself, so this answer would be 60. Let me show you another one. So let's say you have negative 7 times negative 5 times negative 4. So this is another way to write multiplication. You could just have parentheses, you could have the little X's for times markings, or you can have the dots that indicate multiplication. Again, I suggest you work from left to right so you don't get confused, and just look at the first two numbers. So you have negative 7 times negative 5. Again, the signs are the same, so you end up with a positive answer when you multiply. So far you would have 35, because 7 times 5 is 35, times negative 4. And so I'm going to do that on the side of my paper because I'm not sure what that is. And I'm just going to write it as 35 times 4 and worry about the sign of the number at the end. So this would be 20, that would be 12. So I've got 140. Now I'm going back to my problem, 35 times a negative 4. This time the signs are different, so that means your answer is going to be negative. So this ends up being negative 140 for your answer here. So be very careful with your sign. Just so you know, and if we were in the classroom, I'd be able to practice more with you, but your teachers will mark it completely wrong if you don't put the negative sign in. So if you just put 140, I don't know any math teachers that give partial credit for that. So because it means two totally different things. One could be like owing $140, and one could be actually having $140, and so they're completely different. So just make sure that you have the right sign. And make sure you're using the check answer button with big ideas. I have one more thing I want to teach you in this video. I'm going to clear my screen. So this would be example 3, and this is using exponents. And just really quickly off to the side for review, we did exponents at the beginning of the year. 2 squared is the same thing as 2 times 2, which is 4. If you had, let's see, 4 squared, that would be the same thing as 4 times 4, which is 16. Let's say you have 2 cubed, or 2 to the 3rd power. That would be 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8, so this would be an 8. So we're going to use this from the past, but now you're going to have some negative numbers in there too. So here's your first example. Let's say you have negative 2 squared. Now, you have to be careful because the rules change depending on where the parentheses are. So make sure you copy it exactly as you see it. So if the parentheses are around the number like this, it means that you have 2 negative 2's. So this ends up being the same as negative 2 times negative 2. And of course, if the signs are the same when you're multiplying, you end up with a positive number. So this answer would be 4. So let me show you what it would look like if there were no parentheses. So here's example B. Let's say you just have negative 2 squared, like that. It's exactly the same problem, just one has parentheses and one does not. This one, example B, only has one negative sign. It would be -2 times a +2, which would then be a -4. So your answers are completely different. So this is what I would do to make yourself a note, because this even confuses me sometimes. Sometimes I forget my rules. So if there are parentheses, I'm just going to make parenthesis signs to keep it short. If parentheses around the number, then it is negative each time. Just like how I made this one negative and this one negative. Then over here, if no parentheses around the number, then there's only one negative sign. I want to do maybe 2 more examples for you on this, just so that I can try to keep you from getting confused. So pause your video if you're still writing. Here's example C. Let's say you have -5 squared. So there are no parentheses around that, so that means there's only one negative sign. This would be -5 times 5. If the signs are different when you're multiplying, you end up with a negative answer, so this answer would be -25. I'll do D over here. This time I am going to put parentheses around my number. Let's make it -4, but this time I'm cubing it, because you're not always going to have your number squared. So if there are parentheses around the number, it's negative each time. So this would be -4 times -4 times -4. So -4 times -4 would be a +16, because remember, if the signs are the same, you get a positive answer. And then you have +16 times a -4. Now you have different signs, so you end up with a negative answer. This would be -64 for a final answer here. I'd like you to try your assignment problems for this, and if you get stuck, don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help. You know what? I'm just going to do number 36 with you because it's a little bit different. It adds one extra step. So I'm going to clear my screen real quick. This is number 36 from your assignment, so you can just copy down the answer when you get to it. It's -5 squared times 4. And so, of course, this one's a little different because there's an extra step. You want to evaluate this or solve for that first, and then multiply times 4 at the end. So remember, no parentheses, it's just one negative sign, or one number that's negative, and then we'll multiply times 4 at the end. -5 times 5, signs are different, so your answer is negative there. That would be -25. And then finally, -25 times 4, signs are different, so it's negative again. That would be -100. Number 37 is similar, but I think you can try it now that you've seen this one. Again, don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need any help.